Hello, everyone. Happy Wine Wednesday. Cheers. I'm drinking white tonight. Don't ask me, I know it's going to be fall and we start to not drink white wine, and I've been drinking red actually in these past couple segments. But I mix up my wine choices. So anyway, I'm here to talk about last week's topic. I want to go into meeting people and approaching people we want to date. By the way, these Wine Wednesdays are kind of like a little extra thing for me to further elaborate on my thoughts. I know the heart of this is mostly in the blog and kind of what I'm putting out on my Instagram, but it's just kind of a fun thing for me and hopefully for you. So take what you will with it. It's just my little side conversation to the whole thing. So cheers. Let's dive in. I really liked last week's topic. I think because, all of this is relevant to what we're going through, but I think, whenever I put something out there, what's been great about this project is it's brought in different opinions from people that I wouldn't normally hear from. And I've heard different stories, different suggestions, different questions, comments. So when I put a topic out there, how it unravels has been really interesting for me. And this one was definitely one that sparked more conversation. I tend to get some of this inspiration too, just from my own experience and what I'm hearing from friends, what I'm hearing from clients. And meeting people is definitely it's how dating starts, right? You meet someone, whether it's through an app, whether it's at a bar, whether it's wherever, and the approaching thing comes right after that. So we've all been there. Either we're doing it now or we've been there in the past if you're in a committed relationship. And I think for all of us, there's some level of nervousness maybe, or at least maybe there was. I think some people are able to get to a point where it's not as nerve-wracking. But for a lot of people that I pulled on my Instagram, it's a daunting experience. And I kind of want to talk about why that is and what that means. And I don't really need to analyze where you can meet people. You can meet people anywhere. I don't really want to get too much into the dating apps. I feel like that's a different tangent, but the apps are there, and the apps are there to make dating a little easier. But I think it's something that I want to talk about later is maybe how it's made it harder. There's different sides to that conversation, I guess. It makes dating more accessible, but I think in some ways it's put a damper on dating, because I think we get fed up really easily, and I think the apps make us get fed up. And it kind of all goes back to my whole thought that I talked about last week and that I talked about in my blog post this past week, that dating is dating should be fun, and we're making it into a job. At least a lot of us are. I know I did. I definitely, dating in Chicago for me was a chore. It was a job, and I got fed up with it. So I basically stopped. And I think it was because I put so much unnecessary pressure into a situation that shouldn't have meant that much. It's important. And you want to be your best self for whoever you're meeting. That's first date etiquette. But it's also you're getting to know someone, and this is someone that you've known for less than 24 hours if it's the first date. So why are we letting our minds go off in different directions instead of just being in the moment? And I talked about the meet cute. I talked about movies. I think for some people, movies aren't really something that's projected on their beliefs. I think for me, it is. I think I'm easily that girl that watches a romantic comedy and I'm oh my God, that was so cute. And I know that's not everyone, but I think in the back of our minds, a lot of us get ready for a night out and wonder oh, I need to get dialed up, because why? Because we maybe will run into someone that we want to date, maybe. Yeah. So I think, and that's okay, but I think we need to just not give that action that much power. Is that the right term I'm looking for? I swear I haven't had that much wine yet. being in LA, not because I'm in LA, but being in a new city has changed my mindset about dating. I think part of it is the pandemic. I think part of it is the fact that there's really no other way for me to go out and meet people. And it's giving me an excuse to go out. And for the first time, and I wrote about this, I am not going out on dates with this intention of like it going anywhere. And I know we have all heard the expression of like, it'll come to you when you least expect it. And I know because it's people have said to me and I've been like, oh my God, don't say that. Because I hate when people say that. But I think it's not that, but it's like the idea of not taking everything so seriously. So when I'm going out now, it's just fun. And like going back to first date etiquette, I don't need to get into all the nitty gritty right away. I just want to like see what's out there, see how it goes. And the same thing goes for meeting people. I think, when we meet someone, we get this thing going in our minds and like we want to like know right away, like, is so-and-so into me? And I mean, who cares? Like, you're just meeting a person. So how do we retrain our brains to not think that way? Well, it's a little more complicated than that. But I think it's like consistently telling yourself, this is just another person I'm meeting. And if it works out that we go on more than one date, great. But if not, like, I'll meet other people. Or maybe this person will become a friend. Or maybe this person will introduce me to someone that I will want to date. And I think the apps are a little different because the apps set us up for dating. It's not like when you're at like a common interest group and you're meeting all these people and the idea of dating's not there. I think the apps kind of add pressure to situations, which is one of the reasons like I sometimes don't like them. And I think the trick is if you're using the apps, which most of us are, especially right now, is to like look at all these opportunities that we're meeting new people as another person in our social circle, even though it's surrounds dating. I've kind of like gotten into this groove with dating here that like I don't want the first date to be super heavy or like the first initial back and forth. Like I don't need to know about your drama. And I talked about this last week. It all ties in with everything because I don't want to put all this pressure on a situation and a person that I haven't known for very long. And I think we get so hyped up about everything that we just like, we want all the answers right away. My millennial generation likes instant things. Look at texting, like technology. So I think a lot of us want that in our relationships. Like we want to know where it's going right away. We want to know like what the person's thinking about. We want to know their relationship past. Like we need to take a step back and breathe and just enjoy the moment, which is way harder than it sounds. I know that, but it's something to think about. I wanted to talk a little bit more about approaching people because I thought the responses I got were kind of interesting. And I know a lot of us have approached people before, right? And I know that I don't know many people that are like totally like can do it without any nerves at all. I do know some people that can do it without any nerves at all. And my hat goes off to them because I still get a little nervous. But I think there's something to be said for like being, especially for people that are complaining about the apps all the time, there's something to be said to be able to like go up to a person that you think is cute and just be like, hey, how's it going? And like start a conversation. Because I think the more you can do that and like just kind of like not even think about when you go up to a person like, oh, this is gonna be someone that I'm gonna date, just go up to them like this is gonna be someone that could be a friend or that I'm just going to know and say hey to, like I think it takes pressure off a situation and it makes it easier to get to the point. And really like if you get rejected, this is someone that you've met for a minute. So don't feel so heartbroken over that. Yeah. Something that I really wanted to comment on, so many people were against meeting someone at the gym, which just made me laugh. I'm a trainer, so I'm always at the gym, or at least I was pre-COVID. So I feel like I met a lot of people at the gym. I definitely dated people that went to my gym. And I mean, it was fine. I'm single, so like they didn't work out. But to me, meeting people at the gym is great, because if you're at the gym, whether you like working out or not, you're there for a reason, right? You're there because you're trying to be healthy. You're trying to be fit. And if you meet someone who is also there, they're probably there for the same reasons. So it's kind of a common interest thing. And I don't know. I feel like you kind of like, the gym is interesting because I needed a wine break. The gym is interesting because usually if you go regularly, you see the same people regularly. So you could say the same thing for a bar for sure. There's like regulars at bars, there's regulars at Whole Foods. But the gym, like people go to their gym and they have their routine. And see, for me as a trainer, it's funny because you start to like notice people and their routines. So even though they're kind of a stranger, they don't feel like a stranger because you're observing these mannerisms and habits and things like that. So I feel like there's like a little bit more of like a comfortability level there, that you're not like going into it completely blind, like who is this person that I'm going to approach. But yeah, it's interesting. I was really surprised at that statistic. It was also really cool for me to see how with different sexual orientations, the ways of approaching people are slightly different. So if I'm straight and we always talk about this, like if a guy really wanted to ask you out, he would ask you out. Well, based on my polls, granted I didn't poll like thousands of people, but that's not necessarily true. So like, and what was also cool was that most girls polled that they would have no problem going up to a guy and asking them out. I've definitely done it. I've gotten rejected. It happens. It's cool. The more you do it, the easier it is. But it's just like with anything else. You go up to them, you start talking. Sometimes you can tell right away if they're interested and you can ask them out and it's easy. And sometimes, you get the vibe they're not interested, and then you don't even need to bother asking them out because you just walk away. Yeah, that was an interesting statistic to see. And if you identify as someone in the LGBTQ plus community, a lot of eye contact. I think every person that answered that question said something about eye contact, which was interesting because I feel like straight people use eye contact, but like there's more like mixed signal things involved. Like you could give a person eye contact and like not really mean anything. At least for me, I've had that experience where like I've been like, well, they were looking at me, but like it didn't amount to anything. Whereas it sounds like if you identify as gay, lesbian, bisexual, trans, queer, like it that eye contact's everything, which I really like. So there's more of like a definite way to figure out if the person's into you or not. So those were like some differences that I learned about. What else do I want to say today? Yeah, taking the pressure off, retraining our brains to not feel so anxious when we go up to someone, or when we put in our minds that we have the task that it's time to date. That's an interesting thought. I feel like I've heard a lot of people say that, like, okay, like it's time for me to date again. It's time for me to try dating again. Why are we saying it like that? Why don't we say instead, it's time for me to put myself out there and meet new people? That's one way to start retraining your brain, right? Just like the initial thought, just like rewording that. It's actually something I've been like doing in other aspects of my life. My roommate is great about like having me reword things so that they sound more positive, because I tend to go into the negative. Like, oh my God, the worst is gonna happen, or I'll like apologize for something I don't need to apologize for, and I'm finding myself having to mentally go into my brain and reword how I'm going to say that. Well, the same thing goes for dating and meeting people. If you go into it with a different vision, a different aspect of how you're viewing it, it's going to make it less daunting. So I guess that's mostly what I had to say. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. This week I'm talking about texting and communication. Get into more of that next week, but so far I'm already loving the conversation that's been stirred up. Everyone has a different opinion about texting, which is kind of cool, just like with anything. That's why I love this playing the game thing, because everyone has a different opinion. There are no rules. And then the other part that of when I was saying communication, like not just texting, but like how we interpret people's communication through text early on. I feel like that was a mouthful. But like if you're talking to someone on an app, for example, and you haven't met them yet, how is the way they're communicating with you affecting the way you're viewing them? And I realize this is something that's probably going to go into a different tangent. And that's why I think I said on my Instagram, this is like part 1 of all of this, because you could talk about communication in a million different ways. Like I know for me, by example, or by past experience, I could probably have a whole segment on like making a plan for date 1, communication. So we're going to talk about all that, but that's coming up. New blog post on Saturday. Hope you're all enjoying this. I'm enjoying this. Enjoy your wine, enjoy your Wednesday, and that's it for now. So cheers.